Smash that subscribe button right now because we are diving headfirst into the most exciting, most chaotic, most absolutely baseball insane week of the entire year. The World Baseball Classic is in full swing with Blue Jays stars scattered across multiple teams crushing baseballs and making highlight reels. Meanwhile, back in spring training, Jose Berrios is pitching with a massive chip on his shoulder trying to prove he's not the guy who threw a tantrum last season. Nathan Lukes just hit a grand slam that might have saved his entire career. And somehow, Team USA gave up 17 walks in one game. 17. This is the content we live for, folks. Let's break down every single insane moment from the last 24 hours of baseball madness. Before we get into the absolute carnage happening across the World Baseball Classic and the Blue Jays spring training games, drop a comment below and tell me which Blue Jay you're most excited to watch in the WBC. Is it Vlad crushing bombs for the Dominican Republic? Is it someone else representing their country? Let me know because this tournament is bringing out the absolute best in our guys and it's incredible to watch. Alright Blue Jays fans, buckle up because we've got so much ground to cover that I don't even know where to start. But let's begin with the World Baseball Classic because if you're not watching this tournament, you are missing out on some of the most passionate, most competitive, most emotionally charged baseball you will ever see in your life. This isn't regular season baseball where guys are pacing themselves for 162 games. This is national pride on the line. This is players giving everything they have for their countries. And the results have been absolutely spectacular. Let's start with Team Japan because what they did to China was borderline criminal and probably should have resulted in some kind of international incident. Japan absolutely demolished the Chinese Taipei team 13-0 in a performance that was so dominant it almost felt unfair. When the game was happening live, Japan was throwing a no-hitter deep into the contest, and even though China managed to scrape together one measly hit by the end, it didn't matter. Japan put on an absolute clinic showing the world exactly why they're one of the favorites to win this entire tournament. The precision, the fundamentals, the execution on both sides of the ball was just chef's kiss perfect baseball. Team Cuba managed to squeak by Panama in a much tighter affair, winning 3-1 in a game that featured only 10 total hits. This was old school, grinded-out baseball where pitching and defense dominated and every single run felt like it was earned through blood, sweat, and tears. Cuba showed they're not going to be an easy out for anyone in this tournament. Venezuela took down the Netherlands in their matchup, continuing to prove that the talent coming out of Venezuela right now is absolutely absurd. The pipeline of Venezuelan players entering Major League Baseball has been incredible over the past decade, and watching them represent their country with pride has been one of the highlights of this entire tournament. Now let's talk about Mexico versus Great Britain because this game was an absolute roller coaster that perfectly encapsulates what makes the World Baseball Classic so special. For most of this game, Great Britain was hanging around, staying competitive, making you think they might actually pull off a massive upset. And then the 8th inning happened. Mexico came out of the box swinging like their lives depended on it and suddenly turned a close game into an 8-2 blowout. The crazy part? They did all that damage on just 6 hits. 6 hits shouldn't net you 8 runs in most situations, but when you're getting timely hitting with runners in scoring position and the other team is making mistakes, that's what happens. Henry Ford hit a home run for Great Britain giving them a glimmer of hope. But Mexico responded with 2 late-inning bombs that absolutely crushed any momentum Great Britain had built. Here's the wildest stat from that game. 7 of Mexico's 8 runs were scored in the 8th and 9th innings. Great Britain held them to just 1 run through 7 innings and then completely fell apart when it mattered most. That's baseball in its purest form. You can dominate for most of a game, but if you can't close it out, none of it matters. Team Puerto Rico shut out Colombia 5-0 in a performance that showed just how dangerous their roster is. Colombia couldn't get anything going offensively and Puerto Rico took full advantage, putting up runs and shutting the door defensively. But now we get to the main event, at least for Blue Jays fans. The Dominican Republic featuring our boy Vladimir Guerrero Jr. absolutely going nuclear against Israel. This game was competitive and entertaining for a while, and then the 8th inning arrived and the Dominican Republic decided it was time to remind everyone why they're loaded with some of the best talent in all of baseball. Vlad went 1 for 4 with 3 RBI in this game, driving in runs and doing exactly what you'd expect from one of the most feared hitters in baseball. Manny Machado was hitting right behind him in the lineup and drove Vlad in while collecting a couple of hits of his own plus 2 walks. The Dominican Republic lineup is so stacked it's almost unfair. You've got Ketel Marte doubling. You've got Vlad driving in runs. You've got Manny Machado doing Manny Machado things. And then there's Fernando Tatis Jr., who is apparently on a mission to destroy every baseball he comes in contact with. Tatis continues to obliterate pitching after reportedly getting a hitting tip from Albert Pujols, who's managing the Dominican Republic team. Whatever Pujols told him is working because Tatis has been absolutely unconscious at the plate. And here's how ridiculous the Dominican Republic lineup is. Julio Rodriguez, an absolute superstar for the Seattle Mariners, is batting 7th in their order. 7th. That's how deep their talent goes. When you're batting a player of Julio Rodriguez's caliber in the 7-hole, you know you've got something special. Now let's shift gears to Team USA versus Brazil because this game provided some of the most entertaining and frustrating baseball you could possibly watch depending on which team you were rooting for. The final score was heavily in favor of Team USA, but the game felt much closer throughout most of it until a 7-run ninth inning blew it wide open and put it away for good. The highlight for Team Brazil was Manny Ramirez's son, who went 2 for 4 with 2 home runs and 2 RBI. Yes, that Manny Ramirez. His kid was out there representing Brazil and absolutely crushing baseballs just like his father used to do in his prime. Unfortunately for Brazil, both of those home runs were solo shots, and you simply can't keep pace with Team USA's offensive firepower by hitting solo home runs. You need traffic on the bases. You need crooked numbers. Solo shots only push the needle so far. This game also featured Dante Bichette Jr., who is Bo Bichette's brother, playing for Team Brazil. So you had all these connections to Major League Baseball royalty playing in this game, which made it even more fun to watch for fans who know the history and the bloodlines. But here's the absolute insanity of this game that I need you to fully comprehend. Team USA drew 17 walks. I'm going to say that number again because it sounds fake. 17 walks in a single game. That is absolutely bonkers. That is Little League level control from Brazil's pitching staff. You simply cannot give any team that many free base runners, let alone a team loaded with the kind of talent Team USA has in their lineup. Alex Bregman only recorded 1 official at-bat out of 5 plate appearances because he took 4 walks. For walks, Cal Raleigh went 0 for 3 but drew 3 walks himself. When you're handing out free passes like you're giving away candy on Halloween, bad things are going to happen. And bad things certainly happened for Brazil as USA put up big numbers. Aaron Judge did Aaron Judge things, which is to say he hit the baseball very hard and very far. Bryce Harper and Bryson Stott had a nice way to kick off that 7-run ninth inning that put the game completely out of reach. Brandon Webb pitched brilliantly for Team USA, at one point retiring 17 consecutive hitters in a row, which is just absurd dominance. Michael Wacha came in for his 3rd inning of work and allowed Brazil to get back into the game a bit, but it wasn't enough. Brazil actually put up a fight scoring 5 runs against the caliber of pitching they were facing, which deserves respect. Keep an eye on Team Brazil because if they can find some pitching control and stop walking everyone, they could be dangerous. But as it stands, giving up 17 walks is a recipe for disaster against any competent offense. Now let's pivot to what's happening in Blue Jays spring training because there are some absolutely critical storylines developing that will determine how this team looks on opening day. First and foremost, we need to talk about Jose Berrios because this man is clearly pitching with something to prove after the way last season ended. If you don't remember, Berrios had that whole take my ball and go home situation at the end of last year that left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. It was an ugly moment that raised questions about his commitment and his attitude. But to his credit, Berrios has clearly reflected on what happened, has apparently made peace with whatever was bothering him, and is now coming into spring training looking absolutely locked in and ready to contribute. Yesterday Berrios threw another 4 innings giving up 5 hits and 2 earned runs, with both of those runs coming off a home run from Dominic Fletcher of the Pittsburgh Pirates. A lot of the Pirates regulars were in the lineup yesterday, so this wasn't some game against minor league scrubs. Berrios was facing legitimate competition and held his own quite well. The important thing here is that Berrios is showing he's ready to be a reliable arm in this rotation. Blue Jays fans need to give him all the support we can, because if we can get good production out of Berrios, if he can be the pitcher we know he's capable of being, this rotation suddenly looks a lot more dangerous. We talk all the time about what we need from Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. offensively, but we need to remember that pitching wins championships. If Berrios can lock in and eat innings while keeping the team in games, that's huge for Toronto's playoff chances. Speaking of the rotation, let's talk injury updates because there are some concerns brewing. Shane Bieber is going to have a slow start to the season. He's ramping up his workload just like Yusei Kikuchi is, and both of them threw about 40 pitches yesterday with no issues according to Ben Nicholson-Smith's reporting. Things are apparently moving in the right direction for both guys, but they're clearly behind schedule. We're not going to be rushing Bieber or Kikuchi onto the field tomorrow hoping for the best. They need time to build up their arms and get fully stretched out. This means Jose Berrios absolutely will have a spot in the opening day rotation, which gives him even more motivation to prove himself this spring. We also know that Trey Mancini is going to be on a pitch limit to start the season as he ramps up his workload, and his debut is expected to come in a spring breakout game rather than regular spring training action. So Erik Swanson and some other arms are going to have to fill innings early on until everyone is fully healthy and ready to roll. The good news is that if everyone can stay healthy and live up to the numbers on the back of their baseball cards, the Blue Jays have one of the most threatening rotations in all of Major League Baseball. We're talking about legitimate frontline talent top to bottom. And speaking of frontline talent, Max Scherzer is scheduled to pitch today, which is incredibly exciting for Blue Jays fans who want to see what one of the greatest pitchers of this generation still has in the tank. But let's get back to yesterday's game against the Pirates because the offense put on an absolute show that should have everyone feeling great about this lineup's potential. The Blue Jays found themselves down 2-0 heading into the bottom of the fourth inning after Berrios gave up that home run. But instead of panicking or pressing, they did what great offenses do. They loaded the bases and created an opportunity for someone to be a hero. That someone was Nathan Lukes, and boy did he deliver in a massive way. Lukes crushed a grand slam that he went down and got, finishing his swing on one knee after absolutely tattooing a ball down the right field line. The ball traveled so far and so fast that it smashed into the Blue Jays clubhouse that sits behind the right field wall at TD Ballpark. It was an epic, no doubt about it bomb that gave the Blue Jays a 4-2 lead and completely changed the momentum of the game. For Luke specifically, this grand slam probably felt incredibly validating because he's been having a rough spring in those early games. When you're fighting for a roster spot and the hits aren't falling, every at-bat feels like life or death. So to come through in that situation with the bases loaded and put the team ahead has to feel amazing and could be the confidence boost that salvages his spring and his chances of making the opening day roster. Leo Jimenez picked up another hit in this game as well, continuing his absolutely scorching spring. Jimenez is now hitting .391 this spring, and I'm having a genuinely hard time figuring out where he doesn't make this team at this point. The thunder appears to be back in his bat. And when a guy is hitting close to 400 in spring training, you have to take that seriously. Dalton Varsho picked up another hit as well, continuing his solid spring. The Blue Jays ended up putting up a crooked number and won the game 9-2, with the youngsters picking up the final runs. Jonathan Clase homered to help blow the game open, and Addison Barger contributed as well in what turned into a dominant offensive performance that should have the coaching staff feeling good about the depth in this system. So where does all this leave us as we head into the weekend? Well, today we get to watch Team Canada play, which is incredibly exciting for Blue Jays fans since several of our guys will be representing Canada. Michael Soroka is scheduled to pitch in the first game at 11 o'clock Eastern Time, which is right around when most people will be watching this video. Canada will be playing Team Colombia, who already lost to Team Puerto Rico earlier in the tournament. The format is a double elimination setup in a round-robin style tournament, so every game matters and every loss brings you one step closer to going home. The pressure is real, the stakes are high, and the baseball has been absolutely electric. Back with the Blue Jays, we're exactly 1 week from opening day against the Oakland Athletics, and the excitement is building to a fever pitch. Spring training games are fun, but there's nothing like real baseball that counts in the standings. The Blue Jays are getting healthier, the roster is taking shape, and if everything breaks right, this team has legitimate championship potential. Jose Berrios is looking like a man on a mission to redeem himself. Nathan Lukes might have just saved his roster spot with one swing. Leo Jimenez is forcing his way into the conversation with his bat. The rotation is getting healthy. The offense is clicking. And Blue Jays fans have every reason to be optimistic about what's coming. Meanwhile, in the World Baseball Classic, we get to watch Vladimir Guerrero Jr. represent the Dominican Republic with pride, crushing baseballs and reminding everyone why he's one of the most feared hitters in the game. We get to watch other Blue Jays scattered across various teams showing out for their countries and building confidence that will carry over into the regular season. This is the best time of year for baseball fans. Spring training is winding down. The WBC is in full swing. Opening day is just around the corner. And the Blue Jays are looking dangerous. If you're as hyped as I am about everything happening right now, then smash that like button and subscribe to this channel immediately. Drop a comment and tell me which World Baseball Classic game you're most excited to watch today. Are you Team Canada all the way? Are you watching Vlad and the Dominican Republic? Let me know. And make sure you've got notifications turned on because when the Blue Jays start their season next week, we're going to be breaking down every game, every play, and every storyline. This is going to be a special season, folks. Let's go Blue Jays.